In February 2022 at the Winter Olympics in Beijing, the greatest alpine skier alive stood at the bottom of a ski slope and said 5 words that broke the internet. She had just failed to finish the slalom, her signature event. The event she had dominated for a decade. The event she had won at the Olympics 8 years earlier at 18 years old in the most dominant debut performance in the history of the discipline. She had not finished. She had skied out. And standing at the bottom of that mountain in China, she looked at the camera and said, "I feel like a joke." Mikaela Shiffrin. 108 World Cup victories. The most by any alpine skier in history, man or woman. 5 overall World Cup titles. Multiple World Championship gold medals. The most accomplished ski racer the sport had ever seen. And she was standing at the bottom of a mountain in Beijing saying she felt like a joke because she had not finished 3 events at one Olympics. That moment lived in her for 4 years. Through grief that would have ended most people's careers. Through an injury that she described as giving her post-traumatic stress disorder. Through a start to the 2026 Milan Olympics that looked like the nightmare was repeating itself. And then through 45 seconds of skiing on a mountain in Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy that ended 8 years of Olympic silence and produced one of the most emotionally complete moments in the history of winter sport. This is the full story. Every layer of it. Because the gold medal at the end means nothing without the full weight of everything that came before it. Let us start before Beijing. Before the DNFs. Before the joke. Because the foundation of this story is not the failures. The foundation is the loss. On February 2, 2020, Mikaela Shiffrin's father Jeff died unexpectedly after suffering a severe head injury from a fall. She was 24 years old. She was the most dominant skier in the world. And her father, who had been one of the central pillars of her athletic career, and her personal life from the very beginning, was suddenly gone. Not from illness that allowed for preparation. Not from anything that gave the family time. A fall. An injury. Gone. Shiffrin stepped away from competition immediately. She did not ski for months. And when she came back, the skiing was different. Not technically. She was still phenomenal on the mountain. But something underneath it had shifted. The relationship between her and the sport she had spent her entire life inside was different. Because the person who had helped build that relationship was no longer there to share it. She has spoken about this carefully and honestly in multiple interviews. She has said that every new experience in life is an experience her dad is not here to see, not in person at least. She has said there are so many moments where she resists being in life without him. That she does not want to be in a world where he is not present. The 2022 Beijing Olympics came just under 2 years after his death. And Shiffrin arrived in China as the clear favorite in multiple events. Everyone expected medals. She expected medals. And in the slalom, the event she had owned since she was a teenager, she skied out in the first run and did not finish. She was devastated. And the words she said, "I feel like a joke," became the defining image of those games for her. What came next was a DNF in the giant slalom. And a DNF in the Super G. By the end of Beijing she had started 6 events and finished 3 of them. 3 DNFs. No medals. The greatest alpine skier alive leaving the Olympics with nothing. She said to this day she is still trying to understand what exactly went wrong. She came back from Beijing and did what she always does when the mountain humbles her. She got back to work. In the 2022 to 2023 season she won the slalom, giant slalom and overall Crystal Globes, which recognize the best alpine skiers in each discipline across the whole World Cup season. She was dominant again on the circuit. She broke her own record for World Cup victories. She kept adding to a career total that had already made her the most successful alpine racer in history. But the Olympics sat differently now. They had always been a stage she owned. Sochi 2014 at 18 years old, the youngest Olympic slalom champion in history. Pyeongchang 2018, gold in the giant slalom and silver in the combined. The Olympics were supposed to be where Mikaela Shiffrin confirmed everything the World Cup already knew about her. Beijing changed that. Beijing made the Olympics complicated. Made them heavy in a way they had not been before. And then in November 2024, the mountain made it heavier still. During a giant slalom race in Killington, Vermont, Shiffrin crashed. She went down hard on the course and a ski pole punctured her side. She was taken off the mountain on a stretcher. She missed the rest of the 2024 World Cup season. The injury itself, a deep puncture wound to her abdomen, required significant recovery time and kept her off the snow for months when she should have been building toward Milan. But the physical injury was not the only thing she had to deal with. Shiffrin described what came after the crash as crash-induced post-traumatic stress disorder. The fear of falling again. The hypervigilance at speed on a ski slope that your nervous system develops after a severe crash. The way your body, without your permission, starts to protect itself at the exact moments when you need it to be free. She was not just recovering from a puncture wound. She was recovering from a relationship with speed and terrain and risk that had been fundamentally altered by one moment in Vermont. And she had to rebuild that relationship in time for the 2026 Winter Olympics, which was the last chance for her to put the Beijing story somewhere other than where it currently lived. Then her mother got cancer. Eileen Shiffrin was diagnosed and underwent treatment. During this same period, Mikaela did not hide this. She referenced it in interviews, saying that her mother is healthy again now as part of explaining why her outlook going into Milan was rooted in gratitude rather than pressure. But the reality of going through her mother's cancer diagnosis while managing her own physical recovery and psychological rehabilitation from a crash is something that most people absorbed as a line in a profile rather than sitting with the full weight of. She was managing grief, injury, fear, her mother's illness, and the weight of an Olympic narrative that had been waiting 4 years for resolution. All at the same time. All before she had even put on a race bib in Milan. She arrived at the Milan Cortina Olympics in February 2026 with that full weight on her. And the first 2 events did not go the way she wanted. The team combined. She and Breezy Johnson finished 4th. Just outside the medals. She posted on Instagram after the event, saying her skiing in the first race did not come together the way she visualized, that she fought for every 100th and did not find the right execution. Then the giant slalom. 11th place. Not a disaster in isolation. But for Mikaela Shiffrin, who had won the giant slalom World Cup globe just 3 years earlier, 11th place at the Olympics felt like the nightmare was circling back. Beijing ghosts. 3 events gone in Beijing. 2 events gone in Milan. 1 left. She said in the interview after the giant slalom that this was a moment she had been pretty scared of for a long time. That is worth reading slowly. The greatest Alpine skier in history, at her 4th Olympics, said she was scared. Not of the mountain. Of the narrative closing in. Of the possibility that the Olympics had become a place where Mikaela Shiffrin's story simply did not have the ending she had worked for. The slalom was scheduled for Wednesday, February 18th. Her final event. Her final chance. And her signature discipline. The event she had won at 18. The event she had skied out of at 22. The event the entire weight of the last 4 years was waiting for her to resolve. In the days before the race, she sat down and wrote something. She described it as a journal entry at first, something she wrote to herself. But it kept evolving and she kept reading it back and realized it was actually everything she wanted to feel regardless of what happened on the mountain. She posted it on Instagram and said if it does not happen it does not happen, but she wanted to be able to accept that. She was not manifesting victory. She was manifesting peace. That distinction is everything about who Mikaela Shiffrin had become by the time she got to that starting gate. She said that in the beginning of the season people had been talking about revenge for Beijing. About using the Olympics as a place to settle a score. And she had been trying to explain to the world that she did not need revenge. That Beijing had helped her grow as a human. That she had not come to Milan to defeat a memory. She had come to ski. She said her destiny for Cortina was to be peaceful even if she did not get a medal. Run 1. February 18. Cortina d'Ampezzo. The Tefane Mountain. Nearly 600 feet of vertical drop on a slalom course that had already humbled some of the best skiers in the world that morning. She launched out of the starting gate and was immediately fast. Explosively, unmistakably, historically fast. Midway through the run it appeared she missed a gate, shades of Beijing, and the broadcast caught the collective intake of breath from everyone watching. She had not missed it. She was clean. She crossed the finish line. Her time was 47.13 seconds. The margin over second place was 0.82 of a second. In slalom terms that is enormous. The largest first-run margin in an Olympic women's slalom since 1960. 66 years. She was first. By a lot. And she had to wait 4 hours for run 2. This is the part that gets overlooked in the celebration of the result. Those 4 hours between runs are one of the most psychologically demanding things in elite sport. You have done something extraordinary. You have built a lead that should be enough. And now you have to manage your mind for 4 hours while other athletes take their second runs, and the lead that felt comfortable slowly becomes the pressure of something you can still lose. She described what she did during those 4 hours. She found it really challenging to manage her energy and her focus. She had about 30 minutes where she lay on the floor of the hospitality tent. Her mind was racing. She had her music in. She was imagining different things. And at some point during those 30 minutes she stopped thinking about the race. She lay on the floor of a hospitality tent at the Olympics with a 0.82-second lead in the slalom and made her mind go somewhere else entirely. Because she had spent 4 years learning that the outcome is not the thing she can control. The skiing is the thing she can control. And when the skiing is done well, the outcome takes care of itself. And then she went back out. Run 2. She was last to start, as the leader always is. Several athletes had already laid down strong times. The pressure was real. The second-to-last skier before her broke a pole halfway down the course. The skier immediately before her, Germany's Lena Dewar, who was in second place, hooked the first gate and stopped her run immediately. And then Mikaela Shiffrin stood at the top of the Tefane and pushed out of the gate. She was 45 seconds away from her first Olympic medal since 2018. From her first Olympic gold since 2018. From the answer to Beijing. From everything the 4 years had been building toward. She descended the mountain in 51.97 seconds. Her combined time of 1 minute 39. 10 seconds won by 1.5 seconds. The largest slalom margin of victory at the Olympics since 1998. She crossed the finish line and stopped. Completely. The crowd erupted around her. Her poles hung by her sides. Her eyes looked back up the mountain. And then, slowly, she crouched down, bent her head over her skis, and stared at the snow. She stood completely still and then she hugged her knees. And then she realized she had won. And she fell apart in the best possible way. She said later that when she crossed the finish line she had a spiritual moment. A moment of connecting with the people who could not be physically there. Her father Jeff, who she has said is not here to see any new experience in her life. Not in person at least. She said this was a moment she had dreamed about. She wrote on Instagram afterward, privately at first, and then she posted it, and it said simply, "I won." Then a word she immediately apologized for using on live television. Then, "This right here is the lottery and I won. Oh, and I got a medal too." She is now the only American in alpine skiing history to hold 3 Olympic gold medals. She is both the youngest and the oldest American woman to win Olympic alpine gold, 18 in 2014 and 30 in 2026. She is the only Winter Olympian in history to win the same event with a 12-year gap in between. And she pushed back on the entire redemption narrative when Sports Illustrated tried to frame her win that way. She said if they are talking about life growth and things like that, the redemption arc is a bigger picture than just the Olympics. She did not want Beijing to define the story. She did not want Milan to be the correction of Beijing. She wanted it to be what it actually was. A 30-year-old woman who had been through the loss of her father and her mother's cancer and a crash that gave her PTSD and years of Beijing questions, standing on a mountain in Italy, skiing free, and winning. She said she knows what it feels like to do everything right and be professional and take all the steps and make sacrifices and do every single thing you can do to be your best and still have it not go the way you want. And she said that has to be part of the journey too. She was not redemption. She was growth. Those are different things. And Mikaela Shiffrin, at 30 years old with a gold medal around her neck and a message from Roger Federer on her phone she had not yet had time to read, knew the difference. She lay on the floor of a hospitality tent for 30 minutes with music in her ears between two runs at the most important race of her life. Her father could not be there. Her mother had been through cancer. She had a puncture wound scar on her side and PTSD from a crash in Vermont. And she won by 1.5 seconds and stood motionless at the finish line while the mountain she had just conquered faded into the afternoon sky behind her. 4 years between medals. 8 years between gold medals. A lifetime of becoming someone who could stand at the top of that mountain and want to feel the skiing more than she wanted the medal. She felt both.